Hey everyone, let's talk about how Bitcoin can make your life easier right now, specifically focused on easier. So when I get this question from people, oftentimes when they talk about it, they're like, yeah, but how does Bitcoin make my life easier? And what they're thinking is, okay, I make money and I can spend it with a debit card, a credit card. I can send money to people with Venmo or Cash App. I can use bill pay from my bank account or whatever. Like, how does Bitcoin make my life easier? But they're focused on the wrong part of that equation. The part of the equation that Bitcoin makes easier categorically is the saving and preserving of wealth part, which is the part before you spend the money. Now, you can obviously spend Bitcoin. For example, I use the Coinbase debit card, which lets me buy stuff with Bitcoin, which means I can keep very low or almost non-existent cash balances in bank accounts because I buy everything with the Coinbase debit card and I spend Bitcoin everywhere. But you could do the same with, any debit card or credit card. It's just you're having to save your wealth in U.S. dollars rather than Bitcoin. And so again, the value there is in the preserving of the wealth and the increase in purchasing power of the wealth over time, which is happening on the back end before the money gets spent. Now, if you need to send money internationally, international remittances, if you need to pay people in other countries, if you want to donate money to a Christian missionary, on the other side of the world, operating in a hostile environment, well, yeah, Bitcoin's great. You can send Bitcoin anywhere in the world in less than 10 minutes. And with the Bitcoin Lightning Network, you can send any amount of Bitcoin instantly, literally instant transactions anywhere in the world. So it's an incredible way for cross-border payments, paying people in other countries. I mean, Bitcoin's just really good for that. But most people in the U.S., because the U.S. is a large country and has a good payments infrastructure, and most people don't interact a lot outside of the U.S., or if they do, they're just on vacation and they use a debit card or a credit card, which again, Visa takes care of everything for you, or MasterCard. So most people don't, the friction that people mostly experience in their lives is not with the spending of money, but they underestimate the ease with which Bitcoin can solve the saving and preserving of wealth side. So for example, someone who might ask me the question, yeah, but how does Bitcoin make my life easier, is managing a rental property for supplemental income. So they have literally put their money in a rental property and they are a landlord. And they're asking me how Bitcoin makes their life easier. And the answer is, because you don't have to do that anymore. The same money that you put into the rental property, you could put in Bitcoin instead. And instead of dealing as a landlord, instead of dealing with tenants and maintenance issues and calls in the middle of the night about security and every conceivable headache that a rental property could possibly bring to your life, Bitcoin makes your life way easier because you don't have to deal with any of that. You park your wealth in Bitcoin and you just wait patiently. It's that simple. Same with if your wealth is being managed by a financial advisor, you're having to meet with that person once a year. They're taking 1% of your assets every single year just to manage your money. And, you're having to answer questions about risk tolerance and financial allocations and, deal with all of the paperwork that they send you, which is hard to understand. And so how does Bitcoin make your life easier? It's great. Park your wealth in Bitcoin, and then you can just open up Coinbase or River, which are the two primary services people use, Coinbase.com or River.com. You just open the app and you see how much Bitcoin you have and what the current value is. And you're not paying a financial advisor 1% of your assets every single year to manage the same money, and they get paid if it goes up or down. So it's a lot easier to manage Bitcoin wealth than it is to manage wealth where someone else is taking 1% of it every single year. Additionally, if you're doing any of your own investing, that is a huge amount of time and energy that goes into trying to figure out what stocks to invest in, and are they up and are they down, and is it a good time to buy, is it a good time to sell, and what should your asset allocation be between stocks versus bonds. All of that is stuff that Bitcoin makes your life easier because you just don't have to do that. It's just an allocation question of, okay, once wealth is in Bitcoin, it's just there. Like, you don't have to make all these allocation decisions about stocks, bonds, exchange traded funds, mutual funds. All of that is things that make your life hard. But I think the primary thing would be, I guess the greatest savings would be somebody that is trying to use their wealth and increase their wealth in a very hard way, like managing a rental property or something like that, that they have, they bought a, I don't know, they bought a duplex and they're managing it on the side. Something like that takes a huge amount of time and energy. When in the long term, Bitcoin is a much better, in my opinion, much better way of growing and, preserving and growing wealth than managing a rental property or numerous other side businesses. People have side businesses on Amazon, and they have side businesses doing this, and they do side businesses doing that, typically which involve using some amount of capital to buy, equipment or to, rent, have a rental something or whatever it is. And that same capital that is being used to do that stuff can instead be parked in Bitcoin and produce more wealth than whatever that business or service produces in its current form. So anyway, how does Bitcoin make your life easier? Because if you're expending a lot of time and energy trying to amplify your wealth some way other than a job, Bitcoin will probably do that easier than however else you're going about it. Again, especially if you're in real estate or anything like that. And secondly, if you're doing international remittances or any sort of cross-border payments, Bitcoin is amazing for that. But even for the average person, if you want to talk about how does Bitcoin make your life easier, when you preserve your purchasing power in something that's not losing value, your life is easier. My life is much easier because my money works for me. My money increases in value over time. Now, the price goes up and down on its way up. It is volatile, but my life is much, much, much easier because I'm making tuition payments for, my wife Rachel's graduate school program with Bitcoin that I bought for a third to a half of its current price, which means those tuition payments are massively discounted. When I go shop at Costco or Kroger, and, Costco cost me $472, well, that's fine because I bought the Bitcoin I'm paying for those groceries with for $150. So my grocery trip is really costing me the amount of effort, the amount of time and energy I had to put in to buy those groceries was, a few years ago. And it cost me $150 of time and energy, but that Bitcoin is now worth $472, which is what actually is ringing up at the cash register at Costco. Now, not every Costco run costs that, but one recent one did. It was literally $472, and everything I bought was just stuff my family needed. Like, it just was. So Bitcoin makes your life in general much easier because your money's working for you. And when your money is working for you instead of against you, your life is easier. It's easier to pay your bills. It's easier to live your life. It's easier to make ends meet. It's easier to build for retirement. Everything about that is easier. So to summarize, again, when people say, yeah, but how does Bitcoin make my life easier right now? They're typically thinking, how do I spend my money faster and easier? And that is not the primary problem Bitcoin solves. The primary problem Bitcoin solves is the preservation and growth of your wealth, which means you have more of it. And between making it easier to spend your money and giving you more money, it's way more valuable to give you more money because it's already easy enough to spend your money. I'm certain that nobody watching this video thinks the problem is I just don't know how to spend my money. I just don't know. I know what I want to buy. I just can't figure out how to buy it. Well, the world has made it very easy for you to buy basically everything you could possibly want to buy. The problem is, where do you get the money to do it? And Bitcoin does a better job of preserving and growing wealth than anything else, any other asset that exists anywhere in the world. And if you have a lot more money, your life is easier. And growing wealth that you've already acquired or that you're in the process of acquiring, that is really hard to do. And Bitcoin makes that radically easier because you could just buy Bitcoin and be patient. And that is just about the easiest thing you can do. So have a great day, everyone. Thanks.